my country in many ways that otherwise I would not have been able to do. I was blessed to be able to go off to college, and while in college, I joined the ROTC, in this case the Air Force ROTC, graduating in 1976 and being commissioned as a lieutenant in the Air Force. And from there off to navigator training at Major Air Force Base, California, eventually ending up flying principally fighters. And the mission I flew, that some of your folks may be familiar with that are listening in tonight, is that of the Wild Weasel mission, which had the responsibility of hunting down radar systems.
I know that, yes.
Tom Clancy wrote quite a bit about Wild Weasel mission.
You guys went out ahead of all the flights, and you were quite literally the tip of the spear. And you went out there, you jammed all the signals. You guys were hot to trot. You guys were out there because they knew you were coming. They knew you were going to jam them. They were tracking you, but yet you went in first, and then the rest of the helicopters, the flights, they came in. Because of you guys, you jammed all that, and you made everything happen for Gulf War 1. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And a big part of our mission was not just the jamming role, which was more reserved to the EF-111 and the Ravens, but ours was to be able to draw the signals up that were typically associated with surface air missile systems and anti-aircraft artillery radars. And then we had missiles on board our aircraft that we want to be able to employ against those radars and take them out on a permanent basis as opposed to temporary.
Sure, right, really.
Yeah.
Really, exactly. Sir, thank you so much. That was, I remember those days, and I was armchair quarterbacking at that time. I thought it was the most amazing thing that we did back in Gulf War 1 when we took everything out. This was almost an encore of what America used to do back in the day. Today, we are not doing that. It's I don't know, sir, help me here. It's policing, I have to apologize, sir. What are we doing now? You were there. I remember watching the war in Gulf War 1. And it was amazing. This is what we used to do. What are we doing today? What is going on out there?
Well, I think one of the things we can certainly say about the Gulf War, very much like we can say about World War I or World War II, is the focus that we had. And not the focus just as a nation, but the focus that we had as very much of the world that was engaged in stopping Saddam. And how we all came together, and certainly we had the lead time to be able to coordinate everything that we had prepared to do or planned to do when we actually kicked off the Operation Desert Storm. So it's really that focus, and today I don't think we have that focus.
Yeah,
We're so spread out on so many different issues that it's draw that focus.
Yeah, in fact, I like your answer there. It almost seems as if you, with your experience, even you seem to be somewhat lost. It's like, what are we doing here? What's going on here? But let's look at the refugee problem. Did we create this? I don't know. Or was this something that was just naturally going to happen because of the wars that are going on in the Middle East and the war on terrorism? Was this something that was just inevitable to happen anyway? Sir, please.
Well, I think we certainly provided a stimulus to that whenever we did enter Iraq during Operation Iraqi or Enduring Freedom, and also while we stood by on the sides during the Syrian operation. We certainly have played a role, or the omission of our participation has certainly contributed in some way to the influx of the immigrants we have today, which has been going on for some time, but the numbers have certainly increased significantly.
This has changed. This is big now. This is big. And we're kind of jumping around on the outline I sent you, but that's okay. We're having an organic conversation. Um, yeah, the immigrant problem, the refugee problem that's going on in Europe. Sir, you and I, 30 years ago, we could look at the starving children, the crying women. We would know that what a refugee problem looked like. This is not. It's not. It's not what you and I grew up with, and what we know. You with your military experience. You know this. You know this. You know when refugees are coming. It's crying women, crying children. What is happening in Lesbos, Greece? What is happening in Spain and France, Paris, Hungary, even Bosnia and Croatia? Who would have thought that it would happen there? They're all men. Excuse me. They're all men. They're all men, and they're already instantaneously rioting and destroying and demanding. Again, sir, you and I know this. We have gray hair. We know this. 30 years ago, it would be the crying women and the crying children. We would be there first off to help them. Today, it's a different paradigm. It's angry men destroying gates, destroying cities, destroying towns, and demanding, demanding, demanding. What's wrong here, sir?
Well, I think a lot of what's wrong is what we've done as far as not really going to the nations that I think could best help in a situation like we have today. And the nations I think we need to be going to are those of the Arab world, whom I think that should be participating on a greater basis, not only in the sense of opening up the countries to provide some type of settlement or area, at least for the refugees, whether it be a temporary or more permanent basis, but certainly looking at it from the standpoint too, of the amount of financial resources that these nations have that they can
They
contribute
got the money,
to
right,
this
right.
situation.
They got
And I think that we need, as not only the United States, but certainly looking at working with those in Europe to be able to partner up with the Arab nations in whatever means that we may have available through each of us to be able to encourage them to establish these settlement areas and also provide the financing that unfortunately has been placed upon Europe. But let's look again. Maybe Europe is being too accepting in this particular case as opposed to pursuing that route
Sure.
more. And there may be some they are pursuing.
Yeah.
Which limited information that I have, I may not have that disclosed to me. So, at least that's the approach that I would take. We need to keep that problem, I think, at this point in time, in the Arab world, where I think the resources are there to be able to accommodate this particular problem.
Why aren't they though? You make a great point. Why aren't they? The Arab world. Okay, Saudi Arabia has 10 cities. I know they use that for the Mecca thing that goes on the Hajj that goes on every year. What? Well, we've seen this so many times, sir. Why doesn't the Middle Eastern countries take these people in? Why is it always us in Europe? Why is it us all the time?
Well, I think, of course, it's our leadership. It's the leadership both in Europe and it's the leadership both that we have here in the United States that tends to, the first reaction seems always to be to open the gates and let people in. Now, granted, we're trying to put
but
some limit
Saudi
on that
Arabia
this time,
has the
but
money.
we don't really seek I think the help of those nations that could contribute the most in this case. And we certainly have the capability with what we purchase in terms of oil resources from that country or those countries to be able to use that as leverage to insist more support and assistance from the Arab world.
But they don't, sir. They don't do this. They don't. Have you? I'm sorry. Maybe you might have more influence than I have. I don't see anything. I don't see King Fahd or the sons or the princes coming and saying in press conferences, "We are going to accept. We are going to do this, and we are going to set up, and we are going to, because we have billions and billions of your American dollars." It's like, really? They're not doing this.
No,
Go ahead, sir.
and that's the situation with the current leadership, and that's why America needs new and different leadership. We need leadership in the executive office. We need leadership in Congress that is going to take a direction different from that which we have taken up to this point. Someone that's going to call out the Arab nations and call them out for what they're doing and what they're not doing, in order to be able to get them on board with what we have as a global problem in this particular case. And if they don't come on board, then we need to have repercussions that we can employ as the United States, as the European Union, or in order to encourage them through some sort of diplomacy, if you will, some sort of encouragement, some sort of, let's say, sanctions that will encourage their support in this particular effort. That I am not hearing, as you're probably not hearing, being engaged. But what we're doing now is clearly not working, and we're continuing to see the problem grow and grow and grow. And until we have someone that steps forward with a stronger leadership role in this particular matter and really addresses what the problem is and where the best resources and capabilities lie to correct that problem, then I'm afraid we're going to stay the course that we're on now.
Yeah, exactly. Sir, let me ask you, let's kind of get back into our outline here. So, the spark that got you to want to run for president. We talked about your military service. The spark that got you to get to this stage now. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I retired from the military in 2006, and after that I had my own corporation where I provided training services back to the military and defense corporations in radar and electronic countermeasures and other things specific to the military that I had been well trained in. That started to become more a hobby as I became engaged in something you may be familiar with, and that's something called the fair tax, which is the national retail sales tax that has been promoted now since about 1994, when Americans for Fair Taxation came about. And I volunteered my services from the standpoint of what I could do in terms of being able to present on a voluntary basis what the fair tax is all about, and was able to contribute significantly to that in various programs throughout the United States, and programs I put together that were shared by other individuals of the organization around the country. And it was in the process of doing that I felt a calling and inspiration, if you will, to look at more than just tax and what taxes we have in this nation today, and what we need to do in order to be able to fix that system. And I was inspired to sit down and start looking at things such as Social Security, Medicare, the immigration problem, the budget, where we stood on the debt. And I began researching these things, and I started researching them very heavy about 2010. And over about a 2 to 3 year period, I looked into these in great detail and looked to see what solutions we could find to the current situation that we had with each one of these major programs out there, if you will, or issues in many cases as they have come to be, and looked at them from the standpoint of how can we correct these in order to draw us back in each one of the cases to the Constitution, because I felt like each one of those issues was simply drawing us further and further away from the Constitution.
You're right. It is. I've done tons of interviews with. Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
But in that process of research and studying and putting down in document form my conclusions in terms of what's going to be my objective, what's going to be the strategies we would use to pursue those objectives, what would be our goals in each case, and what would be a timeline for implementing each of these. And when I got done with that, Christopher, I realized what I'd done is I'd actually put together a platform. In fact, it's the most detailed platform that any presidential candidate has ever presented. And here, interestingly too, made it available through a website freely for the examination of the American people.
I don't see this from the other candidates that are on the mainstream media. I don't see this. They're talking about it. None of them have produced anything, though.
Well, that's typically the case. What you're going to find, and you will discover this if you talk with some of the candidates out there, that their strategists will tell them, do not give too many details.
Right, exactly.
Because when you start giving details, now you're going to be held responsible and accountable for
and
those.
you're going to be pigeonholed, right? You're going to be pigeonholed. Yeah, any position you're going to be pigeonholed. That's absolutely correct. Continue, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Well, in the course of doing this platform, as it turns out, I was really inspired then to look at presenting this to the American people and doing more so than just through social media and through the website that we had put together. And the inspiration was always to do it from the position of a presidential candidate. And in September of 2013, I made my announcement via YouTube release, which is a very popular way of doing that these days.
Right.
I shared that on Facebook, shared that through the website as well. And then in April of 2014, a full year almost before the first candidate that was recognized by the national news media, I qualified for having met all the requisites as a presidential candidate and registered with the Federal Election Commission as a Republican presidential candidate at that time. So I've actually been a candidate at this point in time for a year and a half. And where I was candidate number 29, the news media withheld any information about candidates. When I say news media, I'm not talking about those at the local hometown level, because there are those out there that have shared them, but I'm talking about the national media. The national media that came on back in March and April timeframe and said, for example, that Senator Ted Cruz is the first Republican candidate to put his hat in the ring. Well, that was absolutely incorrect. That was very misleading information. Senator Cruz was the 55th Republican candidate to enter the race, and he had the same footing and foundation as a candidate at that point in time as the 54 that preceded him.
Colonel, sir, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. You're absolutely correct. Ladies and gentlemen, on the Meat and Potatoes Show, Colonel Bowers is actually completely correct. In fact, I can back up with my own interviews that I've been already interviewing candidates since 2010, 2012, 2014, all the way through. Many people have been running for president all the way through. Colonel Bowers might know John Albert DeMay. He was one of the first people to come on in early 2014 to announce his candidacy for President of the United States. Here's the thing, is that I'm just a small radio show here in Northeast Massachusetts, but yet somehow I managed to meet somebody like John Albert DeMay, Colonel Bowers, Ed Baker out in Portland, Oregon. All these guys announced their candidacy for presidency of the United States long before Fox News, CNN, hello. Colonel, sir, take it from here.
Well, you're absolutely correct. And unfortunately, it's not true just of the Republican Party. It's true of the Democrat Party as well.
Same thing, right, exactly.
Well, absolutely. When the news media was saying that Secretary Clinton was the first Democrat to throw her hat in the ring, that was in fact also...
That was wrong too, right.
Was the 44th candidate to become registered with the Federal Election Commission.
Right.
And Bernie Sanders was somewhere down past that mark. I don't know how many there are today, but I would suspect there's probably 160 Republican presidential candidates out there. Now I'm going to tell you, Christopher, and your audience, some of these people do this as a joke, and that's a very unfortunate thing. And it's an unfortunate thing because of the way the system is set up.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy to explain to you just how easy it is to become a candidate, and because it is easy, it also becomes easily abused. And that is something that I think really does a disservice to candidates like myself, because now people, once they see that there are individuals out there on the Federal Election Commission list that probably are doing this as a joke. They do it every single election cycle. They don't even put up their real names in many cases. They don't have websites, whatever the case may be.
They don't even work.
It presents a problem for guys like me that actually have a very serious campaign. Let me tell you that in addition to having the website and the most extensive platform that's ever presented by any presidential candidate out there, I have also done extensive campaigning across the country.
You work.
And
You
from here
work.
and Florida to Washington State, for example, and actually have been introduced to and spoke at 10% of the Republican Central Committees in Iowa.
Right.
Been hosted on radio shows and done some newspaper interviews around the country. So I am a serious candidate. The problem is you're not going to see Kerry Bowers and these other candidates out here that do not receive the favor of the media, do not receive that celebrity status. We are not going to get invited to the important events that we need to be invited to in order to share the important message we have to share.
Well, Colonel, sir, look at what already Fox News and CNN did. They had 2 debates. Oh, the lesser guys. And then they had the prime time with the big guys. And it's like, well, here on the Meat and Potato Show, I don't know, where are we? What, 4th, 5th, 6th tier? I don't know. But I'm just so grateful to have people like you to come on and talk about these amazing things that people don't understand about how our election system should be freer and bigger and allow more people in there. But even still, Fox News, CNN, they did the candidate debates. It was the big people. And then they held a second one of the smaller people. Colonel, sir, in 2014, I started interviewing more local candidates in and around Massachusetts. I had done a lot of national candidates. I wanted to get more into the local thing that was going on. One of the great and horrible things that I kept seeing is that these grassroots Republican candidates who wanted to change Massachusetts politics, we are a blue state, they wanted to change it. The Republican Party didn't do anything to help these grassroots candidates. They already had their golden-haired boy. They sent the money. They got that person elected, only to find out that that person is a rhino. And they go in and they just acquiesce, work with the... I understand. You gotta work with the legislature. I understand that. But our mission here, campaigns for liberty, Tea Party, you yourself running an outsider campaign, we're here to change things. We're here to quite literally put the boot in the proverbial you-know-what, sir. Why isn't the Republican Party looking to us, you, others, and saying, these are the guys they're going to change things. We need to finance. We need to get with them. No, they're just doing business as usual. Colonel, sir, take it from there.
It's all about money, Christopher. It's all about money.
Yeah.
And it's not about money. It's about...
Is that a rhetorical question I just asked?
Yes, exactly. Now, let me just fill you in a little bit. Back in April of 2014, after I had met the requisites and filed with the Federal Election Commission, I made multiple attempts to contact the chairman of the Republican National Committee. And when I spoke to the assistants in each of those cases, it was to tell the chairman that Kerry Bowers is calling, and I'm simply calling as a courtesy as one of the members of his party that's taken a step to put himself out there to run for president. I simply want to introduce myself and let myself be known to the chairman and those of the RNC. I'm still waiting on that call back a year and a half.
Right.
It's not going to happen. One of the problems that we lack is that we do not have what I would consider, from a military perspective or even an organizational perspective, true, focused leadership in the Republican Party. In fact, let's take it even a step further. I talked about the news media. Where was the Republican National Committee when the news media was saying Ted Cruz was first, Rand Paul was second, and on it went? When the RNC knew that there were other candidates and did not step up on their behalf and say, Mr. Whomever or Mrs. Whomever in the media, you're incorrect. We have this number of candidates and we support all of them equally. That did not happen. And one of the things that really concerns me too is that when we had smaller numbers in the party had the opportunity, and this is true of all of the national committees, whether it be Republican or Democrat, they had the opportunity to show good faith, to call in all the candidates, to offer them an opportunity to come to the headquarters and sit down together and discuss each one of them, their philosophies and their ideologies and where they would like to take America, and really make something of a campaign, one that provides focus. As you look at the RNC now, as far as the candidates, they go from one extreme in ideology to the other extreme, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
and that is all a result of the lack of leadership within the RNC. And the same can be said for the DNC.
Well, Colonel, we can dream, can't we? Because I see you smirking there. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, in a perfect world, seriously, really, that is what we would want. Let's move on to actually getting to the questions here. People are denigrating Dr. Carlson on his opinion on a Muslim president. Our Constitution clearly allows freedom of religion, yet our Constitution is clear on that, the language of the Constitution itself. We remember the debate over Kennedy being a Catholic, the debate over Reagan being a devout Christian, but yet none of those fears that everyone talked about ever came to fruition. However, we have lived under many administrations, many congressional and senatorial changes in power of liberals. The liberals have imposed every single one of their doctrines and dictums upon us. Yet at the same time, they will say, "Oh, well, it's a Christian president. Oh, it's abortion. Oh, it's the violence against women. It's getting into our reproductive." But yet, Colonel Bowers, you're on camera. You have gray hair. I have gray hair. We remember all of that. Every time a Christian or a Catholic or a devout came to be president, everyone screamed and yelled. But yet when that president or person in Congress or Senate got in there, they didn't change anything. They didn't impose their will upon us. However, every single time a liberal Democrat got in there, they have done that. In fact, we see it today all the time. Colonel Bowers, take it from here.
Well, I'm trying to remember a graphic I put out a while back and see if I can quote it about right. And that is that the Republicans did not win in 2014 because of any new ideas. They won because the electorate needed a respite from the implementation of Democrat and liberal ideals. And what we'll find too is that if we look back over the history, and certainly since the Eisenhower administration, what has any Republican president or now Republican Congress done that has altered the destination that this nation has reached today? And especially when we look back at the Reagan administration, when we really felt like he had in the palm of his hands the American people, and probably could have had the Congress go along with new ideas for how we would address many of the issues.
But he did
if you look at the major issues today facing the nation, Those are the issues of immigration, the issues of Social Security, the issues of Medicare, the issues of the deficit. All have either been perpetuated by or contributed to by the Republican Party in one way or another. And it is the lack of leadership from a position of, you see, this is why I don't address myself as a conservative, because there's so many people out there that call themselves conservatives today that I cannot identify with what a conservative actually is.
Right,
So
I understand. Right.
I prefer to call myself a constitutionalist, because
Yeah.
I believe there's only two ideologies that we can really look at. You're either constitutional or you're non-constitutional. That's the way I look at it.
I
And
find
like to
I
consider
find
myself as preserving the Constitution.
I
as
find
opposed to
myself-
conservatively applying it.
I find myself going through that same catharsis right now, really seriously, that I'm trying to, where am I, what do I want to represent, and it's not even what do I want to represent, no, it's where do I want to stand as far as getting our country back again. I mean, I grew up liberal Democrat. I quite literally did. My mother was my mother worked for John Kennedy. She did on several of his campaigns until he became president. And so I grew up under that household. And but then as I grew up and worked and learned everything in the world, and of course, like I said, I got gray hair on my head, I started to realize this is not the wagon I wanted to hitch up on. This is not the liberal, free-thinking business, I mean, make everything happen, let's go, America. It turned somewhere, Colonel. It really did. And that's why I turned. It's like something's wrong here. I literally had this catharsis back when early 90s, and it actually happened in the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. And when I heard the liberals doing the same mantra, it's for oil, oh, it's Vietnam all over, you know, the left started whining and screaming. And I had this horrible catharsis where I had to think, no, we got to go do this. This is important here. And I started to realize this is not the wagon I wanted to hitch up on. And so are Americans, as much as there are lefties out there, and you know what I'm talking about, Donald Trump said something, there still is, like Ronald Reagan said, the silent majority that's out there. Are we still out there? I know I am. Are we still out there?
Oh, we absolutely are. And I hope that I represent that as well as a lot of the other candidates out there that want to align themselves more to the Constitution. And, you know, I want to encourage your audience to go and take a look at my website. One of the things you're going to find when they open that website is the very top of the home page is where you'll find the campaign theme. And that theme is Restore America's Blessings. And what I'm talking about when I say restore America's blessings, I'm talking about those of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The very same that were endowed to each of us by our Creator, and the very same that have been claimed and reclaimed by the blood of patriots, and the very same that were to be, and I note that I say that were to be secured to each of us within our Constitution, and I don't think anybody can doubt that those have been severely eroded. And then the next banner down on that homepage, it says, setting the standard for 2016 presidential candidates. I'm not talking about a standard of character. What I'm talking about there is a standard of campaigning, a standard that provides a level of detail that the people can go and look at and have a clear understanding of exactly where I would want to lead this nation back to and how we would do that. In other words, identify the ends, which many times the candidates talk about the ends, but they never tell us the means.
Right.
And it's the means that I have spent so much time identifying. And in each one of those cases, I have always focused on how does this meet constitutional authority. And I would question anyone, or argue, I should say, with anyone that thinks any one of those programs that I have put out there would in fact deter from Constitution, because I can tell you, if we stay the course that we're on now, we're going to continue to widen that departure from the Constitution.
Yeah, exactly.
So we absolutely need to have a clear course, and we just can't say we need new taxes, we need to fix the Social Security system. No, we need a different tax system. We need to first reform Social Security, not like Governor Christie has said, let's take it away from the productive to give it to the less productive. No, we need real reform. Reform first, and then put it on what will actually be a decades-long plan determination. Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act. You can scream all you want about those programs, but until you come up with some plan that's different, the American public is just not going to. In fact, we're already finding the American public is starting to accept the Affordable Care Act on greater and greater numbers. We've got to provide something different, and I've done it.
Yeah, it's acquiescence. It's totalitarianism through silence and acquiescence. It is really, Colonel. You and Donald Trump have probably the best verbal about what needs to be done. Very forceful, very fervent. This is something that needs to be said to the American people. Unfortunately, it is my fear that the American people have become so MTV'd, VH1, Bravo, Hot Housewives, and, cooking shows, that hearing something in your face, seeing it as it really is, this is it, folks. This is what's happening, folks. Sorry, it's the meat and potato show. The shit is going to hit the fan fast. Put your helmets and safety glasses on. Are we afraid, as a society, to look at things as they really are, Colonel?
I think in many cases we are. We are afraid, and we're afraid because in most cases we don't have enough knowledge about the issue.
Yes.
And the problem too, you talk about the MTV age, and I'm not denigrating in any way MTV. Everything can be taken in proper proportion. But something that popped in my head when you're talking that, imagine if we today, given all the devices and all the interruptions that we have in our lives, we were trying to pass our Constitution. And a gentleman by the name of Alexander Hamilton started producing papers with two of his co-authors, John Jay and James Madison.
I see where you're going.
85
Keep going.
For the Federalist Papers. Can you imagine how those would be completely ignored today because of other devices we have in our life? We would not have a Constitution.
Who are these crazy guys?
Because we would not focus on the important things.
Right. It would be like, who are these crazy guys? What are they saying? Something about rights? What? Hello? What? Southie? Click, click. That's what it would be. That's what I'm talking about. That was my original question. Are we that jaded? Are we that completely outside? Are we in orbit that far as a society? We went in our Worcester Tea Party to go see Dr. Charles Murray. And we filmed that. That's all on the Meat and Potatoes YouTube page, and it's all up on the Facebook, everywhere on social media. Charles Murray said that we are so far away, I'm paraphrasing, away from our Constitution. We're in this modern 21st century type of society. We can't grasp it anymore. We can't understand it anymore. In fact, if we talk to our police, our legislators, our city council, just any city council, anywhere, in any city in the United States, they are, well, we're the city council, we make the rules. It's like, you can't express to them the role that they have as servants of the Constitution. They can't understand that. Charles Murray talked about this. We're in a holding action now. We're in a holding action, and all we can do is hold the field. Colonel, you're military, you know what I'm talking about. Or maybe begin some sort of pushback, but then that's all we're going to do is push back. There is no restoration to what once was the constitutional republic of the United States. Colonel Bowers, take it from here, sir.
Oh, absolutely. You're making really great points there. And one of the things I want to point out for your audience is I encourage them to go to my website, and you're going to find a whole lot of videos that I produce and put out there with short, simple messages. And one of those that I really encourage your audience to look at, it only runs for about 10 minutes. Take 10 minutes of your life to watch something. And it's not 10 minutes that you're devoting to say, I'm going to vote for Kerry Bowers. It's 10 minutes to really look at what we need in this nation and then judge the other candidates as well by those measures. And what I call it is 10 steps to restore America's blessings. And essentially those 10 steps are, first, to restore government's federal character. The second thing is restore state sovereignty. The third thing is restore the sanctity of the Bill of Rights. The next one is restore fiscal responsibility and accountability. Restore the economy. Restore individual financial responsibility. Restore our healthcare industry. Restore immigration law enforcement. And this is very important too. Restore truth and integrity in government. When you've done the previous 8 I mentioned, you will accomplish that. And then the 10th one that I hit on is restore the people's faith and confidence in government. Do all 9 of the previous steps, and we will get back to where we need to be in this nation. That will put us back on a course that will bring us right back in line with what the founders envisioned for this nation and the framers put together within our Constitution.
There's a great idea. Why not create, not only you, but get hold of some of these other people that are running. Get hold of some of these other political organizations and say, let's create, quite literally, you just mentioned 9. I'm going to call it the 10 Commandments of Restoration to American Republicanism. That's pretty much what, think about it. The simple 10 steps that you follow just to bring us back. And as I said about Charles Murray, he said, we are that far, we're so far gone. And he's right. I've done this show for 6 years. I've interviewed candidates. I've talked politics ad nauseum. I have the equivalent of a PhD in political theory just simply by doing this radio show. I think Colonel Bowers, right now, on tonight's show, has just said a 10 Commandments. A 10 Commandments to restore limited government and constitutionalism and a restoration of our republic. Would you, seriously, sir, put that together? What do you think?
Well, I tell you what, we've got a great start with the platform we have out there, the video. And like I said, the people can go and start getting informed about those 10 steps by just watching the video. 10 steps to restore America's blessings.
There you go.
And, you know, and it's something other candidates may want to grab onto. I certainly hope they would. You know, one of the things that I've always said, Christopher, since I started this campaign, is that it's not important that Kerry Bowers become the next president of the United States, but what is important is that we get the right candidate. And the best way to get the right candidate is for each of us to do responsible vetting of those candidates.
Yes.
You know, a bad candidate and thus a bad government starts with one thing first, and that's a bad electorate. Now, that bad electorate may have become bad by its own, let's say, irresponsibility in some cases, or inability to be able to be as responsible in some cases as they like. Many of us put too much faith in our news media. we have to get out and look for ourselves for what the answers are, look for the real candidates in this particular case, going to the Federal Election Commission's website and finding out who the candidates are, investigating them, and seeing what their stances are. And that's a big part of our problem. So it's a part of educating the electorate. It's a part of being truthful with the electorate, that we are our own worst enemy sometimes. And I really had that brought home to me, having now been a candidate. And like you, being exposed to politics more almost on that doctoral level these days, unlike what I had been in the past, and it's opened my eyes considerably. And I just hope to be able to open other people's eyes as well.
I want to thank you for coming on to the show. You have opened my eyes. My good friend from the president of the Greater Boston Tea Party had said to me once long ago when I was doing in the midst of my candidate interviews, he said it's not the misinformed electorate, it's the mal-informed electorate. They're getting bad mal-information is what they're getting, and thus deciding upon it. Colonel Bowers, thank you so much for coming on to the show tonight. Sir, give your website. Sir, we're going to do some stuff here coming up in the months ahead. I want to try to do a Skype radio show type presidential debate with some of the other people that you know I've been talking to. And I would love to have you on here. We're working out the logistics. I would like to do this simply because guys like you, John DeMay, Cody Robert Judy, Ed Baker, all of these guys have been on my show. They've got great ideas. They've got great insight. None of you guys are going to be on CNN. You're not going to the big debate next week or next month on Fox or whatever, unfortunately. Is social media, is internet the new information wave that brings people like you and these other candidates that you know I interview? Is that the new wave to bring them into people's awareness? Go ahead, sir.
So it absolutely is. Because there is really no other avenue outside of those personal presentations, but to be able to reach as wide an audience as you need to reach, and in the time and the resources that you may have available to do that, you absolutely must rely on social media.
Right.
In all the various forms of it. You asked me for my website there, Christopher. It's
Go ahead, sir.
Kerry Bowers, that's Kerry, B as in Bravo, OWERS.com, kerrybowers.com. And I do encourage individuals to go there and take a look at the plans that we put together. And if nothing else, at least hold other candidates to the same level of detail. Don't allow them to be able to just generalize and just tell you what the ends are going to be, but tell you how they anticipate achieving those ends. In other words, providing you the means. And when I say the means, I mean, what objectives do they have? What are their strategies? What are their goals? And what is their timeline? And if they do that, then that's going to give you a better judge of what their capacity is to be able to serve as what I call, not always our president, but I like to call the executive servant.
Colonel, I will put all that stuff not only in the header as we edit the video, everything will be posted and linked as well when we send this out on social media. Colonel, thank you, sir. One last thing. How prepared are we to assimilate all these refugees, all these people coming in? You know, you've seen the videos of Europe. Everyone has seen the videos in Europe. We talked earlier about how they're instantaneously just destroying everything. There was once an empire long ago. I forget the name. I don't know. It began with an R. Rome. Oh, that's it. That's right. That's who they were. Is this, Colonel, sir, our last dying days of our Rome, vis-a-vis? just opening the gates and letting them all in. Go ahead, sir.
If we take that problem and we collect it with all the other issues that this nation has today, it is perhaps but one more piece that will do just as you say. Whether that collapse comes from strictly a falling apart of our society as we know it today because of our attempt to assimilate others in, or it falls apart as a result of a financial collapse, very much contributed to by what we have in terms of the immigration. In that particular case, we're looking at a legalized immigration, if we were to bring them into this nation, or from the illegal immigration issue that we have in this country today. But certainly, Christopher, it's going to add to the problems we have. And if we don't start tackling the other problems, this is just going to exacerbate our condition even more. And we're just going to continue that departure further and further from that Constitution, making it perhaps one day impossible to restore America's blessings.
Colonel Bowers, one more time, give your website. Thank you so much, sir.
Website www.Kerry, that's Kerry, Bowers, BOWERS.com. And I thank you, Christopher, and I thank your audience tonight.
I thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the Meat and Potato Show. Sir, let's get you on back again. You know, the candidate interviews goes on and on and on. So let's get you back on. And, yeah, we're going to talk privately about the debate. We'll get that going. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Christopher.